50-knot drug runners think they own the Gulf, outrunning the law with raw speed and open water. But every week, the Coast Guard response boats built for endurance, power, and rough seas shut them down before they reach Texas shores. How does American engineering turn the tables and guarantee that not one smuggler slips through? The real story of interception superiority starts with a single, brutal reality check. Smugglers put their faith in speed, betting everything on the raw numbers stamped on their engines. These go-fast boats, built for one thing only, can top 50 knots in perfect conditions. With 4 or even 6 high-output outboards, they roar across open water, aiming to cross the Gulf in a single sprint. The logic is simple. If you can outrun anything behind you, nothing can touch you. But the Gulf of Mexico is not a test tank, and speed on paper rarely survives the realities of a loaded hull and open sea. Every extra knot comes at a cost. The typical smuggling run starts with tanks stuffed to the limit, up to 700 gallons of gasoline, sometimes more, including makeshift bladders lashed to the deck. But at 45 knots, fuel disappears at an astonishing rate. In calm water, a go-fast might squeeze out 180 nautical miles before running dry. Add a heavy payload, 1 or 2 tons of contraband, plus 4 to 6 crew, and the range drops fast. In the real Gulf, with 4 to 6 foot swells and a steady headwind, that same boat burns through its reserves in as little as 120 to 150 nautical miles. That is barely enough to cross from the Mexican coast to the Texas line, let alone evading a determined pursuer. Sea state is the silent enemy. Outboards that scream at 50 knots on glassy water lose their edge when the chop rises. Planing hulls pound, props ventilate, and crews are forced to back off the throttle. 42 knots becomes the upper limit in typical Gulf conditions. Push harder and engines overheat or fuel sloshes out of bladders, stranding the crew miles from land. Smugglers try to compensate with extra tanks, but every gallon carried means less space for cargo and more weight to drag through the waves. The result is a simple, brutal equation. No matter how fast a go-fast can run, it cannot outrun its own fuel burn. The Gulf's 600 plus miles of potential entry points offer endless options, but the math always wins. Every mile covered at top speed brings the smuggler closer to empty long before the finish line. For all the talk of untouchable speed, the real limit is endurance, and that is where the equation turns against them. The response boat medium, known as the RBM, is purpose-built for the kind of relentless pursuit that breaks the will of any smuggler. With a 45-foot deep V hull and a pair of MTU Series 60 diesel engines delivering a combined 1,650 horsepower, this vessel isn't just fast, it's engineered to sustain high speeds where other boats falter. Fully loaded with a boarding team and gear, the RBM reaches speeds over 45 knots and holds that pace even in 8-foot seas. While a go-fast boat might boast higher top-end numbers in perfect conditions, the RBM's powertrain and waterjet propulsion keep it in the fight when the Gulf gets rough. Outboards lose grip, props ventilate, and smugglers are forced to throttle back, but the RBM's jets bite through chop and debris without missing a beat. The endurance edge is even more decisive. The RBM carries 495 gallons of usable diesel and can cover over 250 nautical miles at a sustained 30 knots, enough range to outlast any smuggler's sprint. In real-world chases, this means the Coast Guard can press the pursuit for hours, while go-fast crews watch their fuel gauges drop and their options disappear. The RBM's hull is designed to handle the pounding of the Gulf, with reinforced engine mounts and shock, mitigating seats that keep the crew sharp during marathon runs. Climate-controlled cabins and advanced electronics allow the team to operate at peak efficiency, no matter how long the chase lasts. The program manager behind the RBM describes it as a vessel built for dominance, not just survival. Every feature, from the self-righting hull to the digital helm displays, supports the mission, close the distance, maintain contact, and wear down the target. Smugglers may start the race with bravado, but the RBM finishes it with certainty. Its combination of speed, range, and seakeeping turns the Gulf's vastness from an advantage for the runner into a trap. The numbers are clear. When the RBM leaves the dock, the odds are already stacked against anyone trying to outrun it. Detection begins long before the chase. On the bridge of a response boat medium, the radar operator scans a screen tuned to X-band frequencies, searching for the faintest signature. Even a low-profile fiberglass go-fast boat throws a return at 22 nautical miles, well before its crew can spot the Coast Guard. The system refreshes every 2 seconds, fusing radar and GPS data into a single live track. A 5-meter hull, running dark, cannot hide from the sweep. Thermal imaging takes over where radar leaves off. Forward-looking infrared (FLIR) catches the heat of outboards and crews from 18 nautical miles away, even in total darkness. The sensor's 640 by 512 resolution paints a crisp image of engines glowing against the cool surface of the Gulf. A smuggler can kill his lights and run silent, but he cannot mask the heat pouring from 6 throttled V8s. Above, an MH-65 Dolphin helicopter circles at 100 knots, relaying every movement to the pursuit boat below. The pilot's heads-up display overlays the target's position, speed, and heading, all updated in real time by the data link. The boat's coxswain receives course corrections every 2 seconds, aligning the intercept vector with mathematical precision. The radar engineer explains the advantage. A 22-mile radar lock gives a 12-minute head start, even if the go fast is running flat out. That window closes fast. By the time the smugglers cross into the patrol zone, the Coast Guard is already in motion, closing the gap. The chase is choreographed before the first engine note reaches the horizon. No blind spots, no guessing, just a seamless net of sensors and machines, each feeding the next. Escape is not just unlikely, it is detected and countered before the runners know they have been seen. At the moment a smuggler crosses into the net, the doctrine shifts from detection to control. Coast Guard pursuit boats maintained a standoff distance of just under a nautical mile, close enough to respond instantly, far enough to minimize risk. The Intercept unfolds with mathematical precision. On average, it takes just over 7 minutes from radar lock to closing within boarding range. Every move is coordinated by helicopter overwatch, with the MH-65 relaying position and speed updates in real time. The coxswain keeps the RBM aligned on the target's wake, holding a steady 45 knots, while the boarding team prepares for action. When a go-fast ignores orders to stop, the next step is unmistakable. Warning shots. Short, controlled bursts from the helicopter's door-mounted weapon send a message no smuggler can misinterpret. The sound alone, echoing across open water, breaks the last thread of bravado. 90% of crews surrender at this stage, cutting their engines and raising their hands before the Coast Guard even closes the gap. The RBM then advances, boarding team ready, and seizes control of the vessel in a matter of seconds. Deputy Commander Rodriguez of Sector Houston-Galveston puts it plainly. We don't have to chase anyone to the horizon. Our boats outlast, our teams outthink, and our tactics overwhelm. The Gulf is a closed arena. The edge is not static. Coast Guard upgrades are ongoing, with endurance boosts of more than 15% rolling out in the latest service cycles. New waterjet prototypes are already pushing toward 48 knots in trials, promising even faster intercepts and longer patrols. Smuggler technology has barely changed in a decade, but every year, the Coast Guard's advantage grows. As Rodriguez says, speed alone is a myth. Coordination, endurance, and relentless pressure, that's what wins. Right now, American fast boats and sensor nets leave smugglers nowhere to hide along 600 miles of Texas coast. As drug networks adapt, the Coast Guard's relentless innovation keeps the upper hand. Tactical superiority isn't just a goal, it's the front line. The chase never ends. Thanks for watching.